Hello and welcome to LionWing Talks, a weekly show where we talk about all things LionWing, tabletop games, Japanese games, and localization. I'm your host, Bradley Hailstorm, founder and president of this thing called LionWing. We got some stuff to talk about tonight. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Thanks for joining us live. If you're in the chat, what's going on, folks? Most of you I've already been talking to, though, before the show went live. So I was just saying, Fry Guy Fern, who normally jumps into the show about halfway through or thereabouts, he said, oh, I'm catching the pre-show. And I said to him, if you show up before I record, you might get some exclusive scoops, some exclusive news about LionWing. So if you're ever wanting to hear stuff that I'm not going to put on the recording, you can try to get to the show a little early. That didn't happen tonight. I mostly just talked about how I don't get any sleep anymore, because that's what happens when you're a parent. You're lucky to get like 5 hours of sleep a night, especially right now it's like less than 5 hours because I got an 8-month-old, but no world exclusive news tonight for LionWing if you joined the pre-show early, but I appreciate it if you did jump in early, and I appreciate it if you're here now live. If you are here now live and you haven't submitted a question that I can later answer during our community questions submission section, then drop it in the chat. I monitor this thing the entire time. So if you're joining us for the first time, hey, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thanks so much. And if you're catching us on playback, hey, welcome. I'm glad you're catching us on playback. So I think tonight is episode 22. Maybe someone can correct me. I never look at the episode number before I go live. I think I've done it literally one time, and it was just a few weeks ago. I need to start looking. I mean, it would take me like 30 seconds to figure out what episode we're on, but always rushing around to try to get this thing together. In fact, this show is particularly thrown together because I don't even have show notes tonight. That's what my life has been like lately. So this, our next Kickstarter is right around the corner. And so I know I've said it for like several weeks now, but it really is true. I've been so busy getting that thing ready. Essentially, all we need for that Kickstarter to be approved is for fulfillment to begin on Wild Hunt Festival. I'll talk about why that hasn't happened during the Wild Hunt Festival update. Anyway, we did get questions, though, from you all in the Discord. Questions about all manner of things. Some very pertinent to what we talk about, some not relevant whatsoever. So I will go and I will answer all those things. If this is your first time joining us, then we have a format for this show. I open things up as I'm doing now, and then we move into our community submitted questions section, and then we move into our project updates, and then we close out the show. So we'll go probably about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes tonight, maybe a little bit less. Oh my gosh, we have 2 Franks in the chat. How am I gonna keep up with this? Oh no, this is gonna be hard. Okay, so Frank Tank said there's never enough Frank. Yeah, I'm gonna take your word for it. I'm not a Frank. I'm gonna have to keep track of y'all. One's gonna have to be Tank, the other's gonna have to be Silent. So, okay. Hope everyone is doing well tonight. Let's get into some questions. So or Frisnack. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can always call you that. Though, when I'm looking at your name in the chat, Frank, I never associate your Twitch name with your Discord name. I don't know why. They're similar, obviously, and at the same time, not at all similar. So forgive me. All right, I'm gonna pull up the LionWing Talks questions right here in Discord, because that's, like I said, that's where I'm at right now. Let's get to this. Question number 1 from Symphony. Will LionWing have a presence at Gen Con this year? No, we will not, because I am not trying to go into a crowd in a month's time in this pandemic. Yes, I'm fully vaccinated, and yes, things are looking hopeful, but we are not at a place where I feel comfortable going and sitting amongst thousands of people and then coming home to my 8-month-old child. So no presence at Gen Con this year. Presence at Gen Con next year? Yes. Assuming we get out of this thing. So we will be at more conventions than just Gen Con next year. So that's good. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what conventions are going to look like in 2022. You'd hope they'd be back to normal, but like, you know, I think everyone's just kind of like playing the shit day by day. Like we don't know what's going to happen from month to month. So it's hard to predict where the industry is going to be, where the convention industry is going to be in a year, let alone just like at the turn of the year. So we're hoping, though, to be at several conventions next year. Probably not the amount of conventions we would have been at in 2022 had the pandemic not happened, I mean, which is a bummer, but it is what it is. But we'll gradually be getting there. You know, we've never had a convention presence, so this is like nothing new to me. Had we been a company who had a strong convention presence over the years, and then 2020 happened, it probably would have hit a lot harder. But for us, it was like, okay, yeah, business as usual. We don't do conventions anyway, because really, as I've talked about before, prior to 2020, we weren't much of a company. Like we had released Sinoma Coliseum, we had released a couple video games, but it was very much so something I was still doing just on the side, just something that I did at night. And then 2020 happened, and I kind of seized the moment and took the opportunity to take LionWing to the next level. So we'll be at conventions, but not Gen Con. Sorry. Sin in the chat says, you'll have to let me know what conventions you're planning on going to so I can try and plan to make it. Yeah, so Sin Theory in the chat, he's one of our community leads. Absolutely, Sin. If it makes sense, I would definitely love to have you at some of the conventions. I know you're on the East Coast, so there's a couple along the East Coast. We'll see what happens there. It'd be great to meet any of y'all West Coasters in person at a convention next year. Yeah, so that's the thing that I'm actually probably looking forward to the most once LionWing gets back in, or I shouldn't say gets back into, because we never had a presence, gets into the convention game, and that is, I'm excited to like meet all of you. It's great talking with you in Discord, talking with you here, hearing voices or seeing faces on cameras, whatever, but I want to meet y'all in person. So that's the thing that I'm really looking forward to the most. Okay. Where was I? All right. Rogue Knight in Discord says, did you buy any lubricant for that squeaky door yet? So if you have been watching LionWing Talks for a decent amount of time, you know that I have an arch nemesis. And it's my house, and more specifically, it's the door to my basement. It's got the gnarliest squeak in the world. Perhaps it's like especially loud because I don't want it to be loud, one of those types of situations, or maybe it's just really fucking loud. I don't know, but I hate it either way. And so me and that door, and specifically that door's hinges, we have it out for one another. And last week it was especially bad because my wife was like opening the door a bunch because our garbage can sits at the top of the landing going up to my first floor from my basement. So she was opening the door a lot to like throw stuff in the garbage can, and it was driving me bonkers. I kind of lost my mind a little bit on stream. That's like as close as you're gonna get to seeing me lose my mind. I was less than pleased. I even like texted her like, stop opening that door. And it's not her fault. It's the damn door's fault. Actually, it's my fault because I could have WD-40'd that thing like, a couple years ago. We've been in this house for a while, and I never have. But you know what, Rogue, I don't care anymore because we just sold this house. So I have no motivation and no incentive to do anything else to this house, including a small task like WD-40ing those hinges. So we will just have to live with them, and we will just try to mitigate how much that door is open while I'm on stream. So to answer your question, no, I did not buy any lubricant for it. But we have some WD-40 in the garage, but I didn't buy any for it. Okay. Swordman21. How big are solitaire games in Japan, and what solitaire games are your favorites? So solitaire games, like games that can only be played by one person, not very popular in Japan. Not very popular at all. However, games that offer single player options are absolutely growing in popularity. That has happened probably over the past 2 years in specific. Certainly there were like plenty of games that offered single player experiences long before 2019 and 2018. But it's like something clicked in Japan a couple years ago, and all of a sudden, all of these games that had you rewound the clock like 5, 6 years would have never had an option for single player mode suddenly started having the option to include solitaire play. So it's really cool to see Japan getting in on that. And most of the time, those solitaire options in those games tend to come from more thematic games. And it's the stuff that you want to have an option to play by yourself. So I love seeing that kind of thing. You know, I talked last week or the week before about Hackclad, which was on Kickstarter, which finally concluded on Kickstarter. Boy, did that campaign go well for them. I'm very happy for Susobi on that one. They offer a solitaire option. It's brilliant. You know, games like that it's becoming more and more common, at least in Japan, to offer that option, which is great. Solitaire only games, not super popular in Japan. I mean, not like super popular really anywhere. I think most publishers see a game that is one player only as a real liability and too much of a risk. However, I will say in Japan, I've talked about Kuro many times because, of course, I'd be talking about Kuro. He designed Testament. So Kuro probably is, I think I'm probably accurate in saying this, is the designer, the Japanese designer, he's probably produced the most solo play only games. He's probably done a dozen, maybe more than that. And his solo stuff is really good. It's really good, actually. Cross Live is fantastic. I really like Cross Live. My favorite is not just my favorite solitaire game from Kuro, but probably my favorite solitaire game from Japan is probably Garden. Yeah, probably Garden of Minions. I think Garden of Minions is amazing. It's a Puyo Puyo type game from Kuro that has a really cute aesthetic, very like cute naturey aesthetic. It's not super anime or anything like that, but great game. It's a score chasing game, solo play only. A lot of dice manipulation on a grid. It's just you try to chain together combos of being able to clear your board. Again, very Puyo Puyo like. It's amazing. I mean, amazing, 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 amazing. It's got quite the cult following actually since its debut in 2016. So it debuted at Essen in 2016, sold out. They never did another printing of it, and like people clamor for that game. Anytime that it goes up on Board Game Geek on like the secondary market, it's gone. It's gone within like a day. So very popular Kuro game. It's a good game. It's a very good game. That's probably my favorite. Let's see here. What do we got going on in the chat? Sin Theory, Hackclad. Boy, is that a game I wish I had right now. Can't wait for EM Lone Wolf. Yeah, Silent Frank. I'm excited about Lone Wolf. You know, I did see at some point, I've never talked about this, but I did see at some point someone on YouTube had like mentioned something about the Lone Wolf name. I think kind of like trashing the name of of the solitaire option mode of play. And I don't think I've ever revealed this, but I came up with the Lone Wolf name for Embryo Machine's solo play mode, and I actually took it from Mech Assault 2. So I think I've talked about it in chat, but never on stream, that I love Mech Assault. I love Mech Assault 2 in specific. In fact, I have an affinity for the original Xbox, like an unhealthy affinity for it, just because it kind of is the Dreamcast 2, because of Microsoft exclusive partnership with Sega at the time after the Dreamcast, you know, concluded, and then Sega got out of the hardware business. They teamed up with Microsoft, released a bunch of amazing Xbox exclusive games. So OG Xbox, one of my favorite consoles of all time. Mech Assault 2 is on OG Xbox. I love that game. I played the hell out of that game. And its subtitle, Mech Assault 2's subtitle, is Lone Wolf. And I thought, you know what? This is an opportunity to pay homage to a mech game that I really love. So, and it made thematic sense for Embryo Machine. So there is a little behind-the-scenes look at how I came up with that name. But yes, Silent Frank, I'm glad you are looking forward to Lone Wolf mode. Next question, Hero says, in preparation for Wild Hunt Festival, excuse me, What would you recommend printing the DLC on? I worry that just regular paper wouldn't feel right. It won't. And am willing to get it printed with cardstock or something thicker. Yes. Sorry, I had to take a drink there. I would. I think you can go a couple routes here, and it'll kind of be up to you to decide like what route is best for you. You could go with something very accessible, like a heavyweight paper. I would say 80 to 100, 110 pound cardstock. You can find that type of paper at like your local Staples. You can grab it on Amazon, whatever. It's got a nice thick cardstock. It's gonna still feel like paper, but it's pretty thick, and so it's gonna feel pretty good. And it's cheap, it's easy, it's accessible. If you want to go with something a little bit thicker that you're not going to be able to necessarily find at just your average run of the mill office supply store or even Amazon, you could always seek out one of the custom printing sites that allow you to custom print games. I think of like the Game Crafter or MakePlayingCards.com, and you could grab like a 260 GSM cardstock and you could print it on that. I mean, if I had my option, that's what I would do if I were a player just getting that DLC and wanting to print it myself on something. We print over we usually print on something over 300 GSM, so 260 is pretty good. That's pretty good. That being said, if you want to wait, there might be something later on down the road where that DLC might show up in physical form. So keep that in mind as well. Someone Sin in the chat said you could always go the ultra cheap route, print it on paper, and glue it to a common card from a TCG and cut the excess if there is any. Yeah, you could do that. You could also do some kind of paste up. Print something off, throw it on a sleeve the card, what have you, and then do what Sin's talking about. So there's a lot of ways to skin that cat. I hate that expression, but there's a lot of ways that you could go about doing that. You got a couple now. Aiken in Discord asks, when can we expect Project Requiem's full reveal? Well, I don't have a solid answer on that yet because I'm only going to reveal it once Kickstarter allows us to greenlight another project. And as I mentioned before, maybe last week, the week before, Kickstarter only allows a company to have sometimes, but generally, they only allow them to have 3 unfulfilled projects at any one time. If you have 3 unfulfilled projects and then you go to put another one into the review queue, like a 4th, they'll turn you down and will tell you, well, you got to fulfill one of those outstanding projects, and then then we'll review your submission. So once Wild Hunt Festival starts getting fulfilled, then we'll be able to go through the review process with Kickstarter, hopefully get everything taken care of, and then shortly after that we will reveal the game. Now, we want a 4-week lead up from reveal to Kickstarter launch. I want 4 weeks of marketing time, 4 weeks of ads to run. In the past, we've always run 3 weeks, and it's given us, clearly, it's given us good results. This time, though, I want an extra week because I always want 4, and something always comes up to where we can't do 4. Timelines are too short and we have to do 3. This time I'm like, no, fuck it. We're doing 4. Like, we're already held up because of this Wild Hunt Festival fiasco. We can wait another week. I'm going to market in the way that I've wanted to market the past 4 damn projects. So here's what I'd like to do. Let's say Wild Hunt Festival gets fulfilled. It's Wednesday. This is not accurate. I'm just like throwing out things here, okay? Let's say Wild Hunt Festival is fulfilled by the end of next week. I would then want to reveal the project the end of the following week because it does take Kickstarter 3 or 4 days to review the project you've submitted to them. I want to have a landing page up this time. As I mentioned, Made Night Saga, we revealed it. We had no landing page. this time with the next project, Project Requiem, I want there to be a landing page so that when we reveal, someone can immediately go to the Kickstarter landing page, hit that notify me upon launch button, and then boom, you know, they're kind of in the system for us to be able to follow and to hopefully reach out to them and get their attention once the game goes live. So it just makes sense from a marketing angle, from a Kickstarter angle, and really, if you're like me, like I'll see something on Facebook, and it's like, oh yeah, get notified when the Kickstarter campaign goes live. I'm like, oh yeah, sign me up, and then I never think about that game again until I get an email. And that's exactly, I think a lot of people work like that, and so I want to make sure that like we don't get lost in all the noise. There's a lot of Kickstarter noise, right? Because like, you know, dozens of games launch on Kickstarter practically every day. Dozens of board games, at least, launch on Kickstarter every week. So it's just better if you can allow someone to sign up for you and then just drop that information out of their mind and not have to worry about it again. Because if you don't have a landing page and they have nothing to sign up on, they're like, oh yeah, that game looks cool, I'll come back to that, or I'll check in on it again in a couple weeks, and then they never do and they're lost. You know, it's a lost customer. So not doing that. So that's not a clear answer. Obviously, that's probably not the answer you're looking for, Aiken, but it's the only answer I got. Bitcoins in Discord says, can you describe the largest fish you've ever seen? I cannot. It was too big. Mirage Sessions, aka OST guy. Haven't been talking much lately, but I've been lurking. Saw Requiem. Of course, you know what I'm going to ask. Yes, I know, Sessions. Are we getting an OST with whatever Requiem is? Yes, you will be getting an OST. It is our most ambitious, I think, OST yet. It is our most unique and our most eclectic. So our previous OSTs, intentionally and by design, have needed to present a full OST that sounded like it all came from the same sound, from the same composer, for the same game. You know, I think about Wild Hunt Festival's OST. It's got a very particular vibe, a very particular setting, right? I wanted all the tracks to sound like a fantasy RPG. I wanted it to sound like a JRPG. So every track sounds like a JRPG track. They all sound different, but at the end of the day, they all sound like a JRPG soundtrack, and that's exactly what I wanted. That's exactly what I wanted for Testament. That's exactly what I wanted for Embryo Machine. This next project, Project Requiem, gives us a chance to experiment more. It gives us a chance to pull in multiple sounds, to be able to provide a listening experience unlike anything that we've provided up until now. And that's really exciting. You know, as a creative, you're always looking for ways to do something new, to try something new, to break out of the mold that either you've put yourself in or that other people have put you in. And so this was our opportunity to say, all right, so with our past games soundtracks, they've all fit very neatly into a box that we defined for that soundtrack and for that game. They went off exactly as planned. This, however, because of the type of game that it is, because of its setting, its vibe, and its tone and all of that, this is an opportunity to do something different, to offer a truly unique listening experience for general listeners, but certainly of listeners of LionWing soundtracks, and to really be bold with what we come up with. And so I think people are going to be surprised and very pleased with what they end up with Project Requiem's soundtrack. I'm really excited to show off its trailer track because it too is unlike any other track that we've done before, and certainly it's unlike any trailer track we've done before. So very exciting times. Yeah, I think that's all I want to say about that. It'll probably be the same length as all of our other soundtracks, so you can bank on that. Bitcoins in the chat also asked, have you committed any crimes in solidarity with the LGBTQ plus community for Pride Month? I don't think I've committed any crimes lately. Mirage Sessions. I can't talk tonight, guys. I'm sorry. My mouth is broken. Mirage Sessions also asked, I meant to ask, will you be doing a teaser trailer for Requiem like you did with Gun and Gun? I don't think you did one for Embryo Machine, if I remember correctly. Probably not. We probably won't be doing a teaser trailer for Requiem. I mean, there's a possibility, but my problem with that, and it's why we didn't do it for Embryo Machine, it pulls resources away from the trailer that you actually want to be the best one. You want your main trailer for the Kickstarter, your main game trailer, to be the best trailer you can put out, the best one you can produce. But if you're pulling away time and energy and creativity and storyboarding and all of that that goes into a teaser trailer, it's kind of like, well, shit, why didn't we just put that time into making an even better main trailer, And so it was cool being able to do that for Gun and Gun. I really like that teaser trailer. In fact, in some ways, I like the teaser trailer. I like how it turned out more than the actual trailer. And I love the Gun and Gun main trailer, the official trailer, but there was something really cool about that teaser trailer. But I don't think we'll do that again for Requiem, especially because of our timeline. It probably wouldn't work out anyway, even if we wanted to. But again, I don't even want to, so it doesn't matter what the timeline looks like. Bit's back with another question. What is the most exhausting, annoying phone call you've ever had to deal with? Probably a phone call that I've had to have with like a student loan lender. That's probably right. Sai asks, with the two next Kickstarters being so close together, what impact will it have on the future scheduling? I am thinking about Kickstarter's rule of 3, but I'm also just interested in other impacts. Yeah, so as I mentioned, there'll probably be about 8 weeks between Project Requiem's Kickstarter and then Midnight Saga's Kickstarter. So it'll be a faster turnaround time than anything that we've ever done before. Usually we try to put about 4 months in between, 4 or 5 months in between campaigns. And this one will be a much quicker turnaround. Now, part of that is because like everything with Midnight Saga is done. The campaign's done, the game's done, the Kickstarter extras are done. There's not a whole lot that we will have to do once that campaign ends. The only thing that's not done is the thing that we're adding, which is the thing that ultimately decided that we were going to delay the game, right? So, Midnight Saga was going to be this next Kickstarter, and then we're adding something, and we decided, you know what, we probably need time to really flesh this thing out, so let's push Midnight Saga back, put something in its place. So the 8-week turnaround time, yes, it's fast, but like all the work is done. Like literally all the work is done other than this one thing. But that one thing actually has no bearing on the campaign itself. And usually it's the campaign that sometimes takes the longest. Because you've got to present a game in a very specific way. You got to have your marketing down. You get everything sort of has to align perfectly, and it takes a lot of effort, not only to like create those assets, but just the creativity that and the creative that goes into all of that. But all that's done for Midnight Saga, so that allows us for a quicker turnaround. Also, 8 months after the end of Requiem's Kickstarter, Gun and Gun will have been fulfilled, and so that'll free up a spot for us to get back into the Kickstarter queue. And so that will allow us to get Project Requiem delivered early next year, and Midnight Saga not too far behind that, which, that's good for business, because then that allows us to get to projects more quickly. It allows us to, launch campaigns more quickly. It allows us to maintain momentum, which is, super important in this environment. And so, yes, it's a quick turnaround, but I don't actually think that it's going to have a lot of impact other than good impacts in the sense that, people will get a chance to experience, to back, to check out more LionWing games. And Project Requiem and Midnight Saga couldn't be more different. So like it's actually really great that those two projects are going back to back, because they have nothing in common, which is great. I talked about, I think it was last week, how it's nice to be able to, sometimes it's nice to be able to do one game and then maybe kind of revisit that genre later on down the road. But it's also, I think really nice, like creatively for someone in my role, it's really nice and refreshing to be able to do one game. And then once that's finished, that project's finished, you move to the next one and the next project is, vastly different. It just allows you to stay refreshed, to be sort of optimally engaged. And so it's fun. It's fun when projects are very dissimilar to one another. It wasn't like Testament and Wild Hunt Festival, as I've talked about, they occupied the same corner of the genre of like boss battler with RPG elements. They handle that genre very, very, very and vastly different. But still, at the end of the day, like the core of those games is a boss battler. How they accomplish that core is obviously very unique and different. But it's one thing to go from Testament to Wild Hunt Festival. It's another thing to go from Requiem to Maiden Knight Saga. Bitcoins. Do you think LionWing games would exist if the Soviet Union came out on top of the Cold War? I have no idea, Bit. I don't know. I don't know. As a follow-up to that, Swordman, are there any Soviet communism-themed anime board games? This is why it would help to look at these questions before looking at them for the first time while on air. Captain Redbeard in the chat said, I mean, somewhat relevant. Barbarossa lets you take on the evil magician Stalin as German military waifus. Yeah, I guess Barbarossa, but maybe now I'm on like the war game theme. Tank Hunter 2E had an expansion. I think it's Commander. I think that's the expansion. Shit, is that right? I think that game has 3 or 4 expansions, and I can't remember if the one that includes the Soviets is Commander or if it's Jaeger. I think it's Commander. I don't know. Tank Hunter 2E from Arclight and Japone brand. Give that a look. I can't think of any others though. I'll have to think on that. I don't know if I can't think of any others right now because I'm on the spot, or if I can't think of any others right now because there are no others. I don't know. So I have to give that one some more thought. Okay. So that takes us to the end of our questions. I think that's the fastest we've gotten through the community questions bit in quite a while. So let's move into some project updates. First, I'm going to take a drink. All right, so first up, as always, Testament. The errata packs, all of those files have been submitted to Japanime. We did confirmation on card counts today, and now we're done. So those will go to the printer soon. I don't know if they're going to try to time the printing and then shipment of those errata packs like with some of their other projects, or if they're going to do it separately, and they're just going to have those things printed and shipped, independent of whatever else they might have in the queue. I don't know what they'll do there. I didn't ask. I don't really feel like it's my place. I think if they do it independent from their other stuff, it'll probably take about 35 days to print from start to finish, maybe a little bit less, and then whatever time it takes for them to be shipped over. I don't know if those packs will be shipped over through traditional like international freight means, or if they will be shipped like by air. My hope is that it's the latter because, of course, it gets to you sooner. But I don't know how big that package is going to be. I don't know how big, that many errata packs. Although each errata pack is only like 16 cards or so, somewhere around there, less than 20 cards. I don't know what they'll do for the shipping situation with those. But it's not like those errata packs are going to be here like next week or the week after. I'm not even sure those errata packs will be here in July. So even August seems, at least early August seems pretty unlikely. But again, all of this is sort of dependent upon their shipping method. So, I mean, it could be, who knows? It could be October. I just don't know. And it's not really my place to talk on that. I don't want to talk out of turn, so I'll let them do their thing. You could certainly give, ask them. What else about Testament? Anything else about Testament? I can't think of anything. I think that's it for Testament. Oh boy, all right. So Wild Hunt Festival. So the saga continues. What I'm waiting on, and I mentioned this last week, but I didn't put a name to it. What I'm waiting on from the Fulfillment Center is what's called a final deposit invoice. It's a piece of paper that only the Fulfillment Center can make and therefore send me. And it's a piece of paper that only I can sign. As you might guess from its name, deposit invoice, it is the Fulfillment Center sending me an invoice for how much money I owe them, just for the fulfillment fees, not for shipping fees or anything like that, because I'll pay them for all of that, after fulfillment's finished. But it's how they get their sort of upfront money. Fulfillment centers right now are backed up. They just are. I mean, everything's fucking backed up right now. Like, yes, things have gotten drastically better since late last year when it was just a complete, clusterfuck. But it's still pretty nightmarish. Here we are, however many months later, 8 months later from when it really was a mess. And it's still a mess. It's not really a mess any longer, but it is a mess. And so everything is backed up, from shipping, from printing to shipping to customs to fulfillment. So I guess on one hand, I'm not surprised it's taken a while. On the other hand, it is sort of a little bit surprising that the Fulfillment Center doesn't want my money. I would think they'd be like, yo, give me that money, because they get paid from me, right? So so that's what we're waiting on. I can't do anything. Literally, I can't do anything until I get that form and I sign off on it and I send them over, the initial payment for that invoice. So as soon as that happens, we're good, but nothing can happen until that happens. From my understanding, the plot thickens a little bit here. From my understanding, everything has arrived at the Fulfillment Center. So it's there. It's safe, which is good. That counts for something. You never know how things are going to go in this current shipping environment. You never know when all your stuff is going to show up, past deadline in the back of a box truck, like Testament. That's abnormal, but that's where we're at right now. At least I know our stuff has arrived, as it should have. But I can't do anything with that information because I can't do anything until I get that deposit invoice. So, as soon as that deposit invoice is sent and I sign it and I send it back to them, I send over payment, the turnaround's very quick, 1 to 2 business days, and fulfillment begins. So we really are nearly at the finish line, but we're at a standstill right now. It gets more complicated, as I just alluded to, because the person that I hired to handle all of, logistics and communication with the fulfillment center, the printer, the freight company, etc., Petra, she goes on vacation, or I should say she went on vacation as of today for 2 weeks. Now, I have someone in her place, so it's not like I'm going to be in the dark or anything, but that has been my main point person. That's who I pay. I hired her, for this job. So it's going to take a minute for me to acclimate to working with someone new, even if the person that I'm working with that's new, that's not Petra, is someone that I've worked with for the past year and a half. So at least there's that relationship there, but it is a slight acclimation period. But at this point, Petra's job is more or less done. She ensured that, shit got printed, it got put on the freight ship, it made it across the water safely, it got through customs, it arrived at the fulfillment center. So her job's mostly done. So the fact of her, her going on vacation for 2 weeks has minimal, if any, impact whatsoever on the process at this point, considering she's kind of like, all right, I've done my part. But still, that's just something else that we're having to work around right now. So I know people are anxiously awaiting, in some cases, like me, desperate to get Wild Hunt Festival in their hands. I don't think I can completely convey the fact that I'm more excited than all of you to get Wild Hunt Festival. I know it might seem like y'all must be more excited, but I promise I'm more excited. So this is really, I know it's painful for you all. It's painful for me too. It really is. So I understand the frustration, but I mean, everyone's been super cool about it. Even like Kickstarter messages, you never know what that's going to be like. That's a mixed bag. Sometimes people don't always have the most realistic expectations, or they don't read Kickstarter updates and they make demands, and it's like, oh, I actually mentioned this in an update like 6 months ago, and then I mentioned it in an update 5 months ago, and then I mentioned it in an update 4 months ago, 3 months ago, 2 months ago, and then I just posted an update 2 days ago about it. Read any of those and you'll have your questions answered. But even like the Kickstarter messages, and certainly folks in Discord, have been super understanding and very patient. I think everyone's kind of coming to the harsh realization that the board gaming industry is like fucked right now, not because of anything it's doing, but because what it relies on to be an industry, and that is the printing of physical goods, the shipping of those physical goods, and then the attainment of those physical goods, and then the distribution of those physical goods. All parts of that process are a mess right now. So I think in the beginning, I don't think people really knew that or grasped that, because like, why would you? If you're just like a customer and like you're not working on the back end of things, like you might on some level intellectually know like, oh, the pandemic's screwing up a few things, whatever, like that, but like you don't really know what's going on. So people in the beginning, when they weren't getting games on time, were pretty frustrated, expecting timelines to be the same as they always had been. But now that we've been in this for so long and timelines have been, such a disaster for so long, I think people, and so many articles have been written about all of the above, I think people are finally like, oh, this is different. Okay, let's let me back off a little bit. Let's give these companies some grace. So that's been cool. But I know people still want the game, and I promise I want it more. So I mentioned on LionWing Plays on Monday. If you missed LionWing Plays on Monday, which you shouldn't, it goes down Mondays 9 p.m. ET here on Twitch. Now that you know, you've got no reason to miss it. I mentioned that we're going to be playing some Wild Hunt Festival on stream. So we've got a couple ways that we're looking to do that. One is with physical product. Once we get the physical product, playing it on stream that way, working with cameras. If you've been following the Gun and Gun Virtual League conversation since, well, like last October when the campaign went up and it was talked about on the campaign page, you know that I've wanted to do some kind of streaming, but with physical product, yet having people in various parts of the world all kind of streaming the same game. Wild Hunt Festival is like the perfect game to do that with, because there are not a lot of components, and the components that you do have, there isn't like a high level of interactivity between various, parts of that game. So you really can have like one person kind of manage all of the parts that are dynamic, card taking, card shuffling, card drafting, whatever, while everyone else just manages their own individual board. So we're going to try to see if we can do the physical edition of Wild Hunt Festival for the stream. But if that doesn't work, then I am having an internal tabletop simulator version of Wild Hunt Festival created just for the LionWing team to use. It won't be a public tabletop simulator demo or anything, and there are reasons for that I'll talk about later on down the line. But that is also an option as well. The point is, we want to stream Wild Hunt Festival. It's such a great game to stream. Because it is lighter and because there's less to keep track of, it's a really easy game to watch being played. It's not like Testament. Testament's a pretty complicated game to watch being played because there's so many moving parts. There's so many tokens that you got to keep up with. There are so many skills, and each skill brings with it a myriad of effects, and those effects you have to keep track of, and then there's mobs to keep track of, and then there's like 18,000 things to keep track of on the boss board. It's just a hard game to watch and to really like follow it all. Wild Hunt Festival is a very streamlined game, from its rules down to the components that it uses, down to how you interact with all of those components. It's just a more accessible, more straightforward approach to the boss battler genre, which means it'll stream really well. I had people watch that game, just watch it during the playtesting period, just observing the core team, the core playtest team playing the game. And it's exciting to watch. It's easy to watch and it's exciting to watch. And so I really think it's going to make for a great streaming experience, regardless of the approach that we use, whether it's digital through Tabletop Simulator or we use, a combination of cameras and real life assets, components. So we are going to be, doing that. We're going to be streaming that. I don't know. I don't have a date on this is the Monday where we're going to be streaming Wild Hunt Festival. Certainly, we're not going to be streaming it until we get the physical product because we want to see if we can do the physical product stream before deciding when we're going to do that stream. So we've at least got to wait until we get the product in hand. But we are going to be rotating that game in. And there's a lot to do with Wild Hunt Festival. Certainly, it could be cool to do. I haven't talked about this before, but this is stuff I have been thinking about, for a couple months now in preparation for the game's launch. It could be fun to do the whole story, do a story playthrough over the course of, several sessions. Of course, that comes with spoilers and stuff, and I don't know if people always want to be spoiled on that kind of thing. But if it's decided, and we'll leave it up to the community, what you all want. But if it's decided no, we don't want to be spoiled on the story, the good news about Wild Hunt Festival is it's got other play modes. So you've got challenge mode, and then you've got nightmare mode, which are not story driven, which don't have any spoilers other than the spoiler of seeing, certain boss monsters and those bosses' mechanics, which that is definitely spoiler territory. But I think people might be more willing to watch that and not get exposed to the story elements than otherwise, because I think most people want to experience that story stuff on their own. Still, whatever the community decides, we're down. The point is, there's a lot of ways that you can play Wild Hunt Festival, and all of them are really exciting, and all of them will stream extremely well. If you told me right now, all right, make a decision how you're going to stream and what you're going to stream of Wild Hunt Festival, I'd say, well, I want to stream with the physical components, and I want to stream challenge mode. Challenge mode's really, really fucking hard. So it'd be cool to stream. Nightmare mode is, as you can tell by the name, the hardest of all the modes, but it's also the most involved because it involves a party of 8 as opposed to a party of 4. So that with physical assets, that's a little harder, because you just have more things to keep track of, and your camera can't zoom in on one thing because you got multiple character boards, and it's not as clean. It's still totally doable, but it's not as clean. Now, it doesn't matter if we go the tabletop simulator route, but still. So, Wild Hunt Festival is going to be fun to stream. Frag Guy Fern in the chat says, sometimes I think that all of these board game delivery issues are butterfly fallout from the Suez Canal thing. Well, I mean, not necessarily. Certainly some of it could have been. I think we're mostly probably caught up now on what would have been affected, directly from the from that incident. But shit was a mess long before that boat got lodged in that canal. You know what I mean? If things were fine and then that happened and then we haven't been able to recover, yeah, I think then you've got more of a stronger correlation or even a relational effect there. But I'm not convinced that's really the case any longer. I think perhaps in the first 8 weeks after that happened, maybe some things, I'm using a lot of soft language here, maybe in some things were affected, but by and large, I don't necessarily know if that many things were affected. Although, it's easy to draw that conclusion. It's very easy to draw that conclusion. So I could be wrong. Also on the Wild Hunt Festival front, we've got Puma Rhapsody coming up, which is our summer-themed DLC. So keep a lookout for that. We are going to be releasing Puma Rhapsody in July, August. Sure. I have that somewhere in an email. You're going to be getting that DLC soon, though. Just like the first DLC, which was winter themed, this one, as mentioned, will be summer themed, which is cool. Let's see if I can grab this real quick. Here we go. Yeah, okay, so July. That's assuming we can get everything translated in time for a July release and then get it all packaged and then sent out to people, because it's going to be in the midst of preparing for Requiem. Sin Theory in the Twitch chat says, let's go. In a co-op game, we can all have that 70% loss rating along with Beans. Yeah, so our other community lead, other than Sin Theory, is an individual by the name of Real Beans. If you watch on Mondays, the Plays show, you know that he has pretty not so good win-loss record. So that's what Sin Theory is talking about there. Running joke. Poor Beans. Poor Beans. He's just got to stop playing Garu, Stop playing Garu. We streamed Embryo Machine on Monday, and there's a particular mecha named Garu that's very challenging to play as, and for whatever reason, Beans is always really drawn to playing Garu, despite the fact that he's never won with Garu. Oh, Beans. I hope you're watching this, Beans. We love you. Okay, Gun and Gun. So, we're going to be running a tournament for Gun and Gun. We're going to be talking about that tournament in July. So initially I was thinking we would launch that tournament at the end of July, but I think we're probably going to be looking more at August, just because Wild Hunt Festival has taken so long to get fulfilled, which pushes back Requiem's Kickstarter launch. And like the end of July, we're probably going to be like just getting ready to go into launch, and so that'll be a little crazy. And I don't want to neglect the Gun and Gun tournament because we're in the midst of like the first 72 hours of Requiem's Kickstarter launch, or we're gearing up for its Kickstarter launch, because sometimes the 72 hours before a campaign goes live is more stressful than the 72 hours it goes live. The 72 hours after it goes live. So. Nevertheless, we will be having a second Gun and Gun tournament, and as mentioned, it will include Overheat. So we have not put Overheat on Tabletop Simulator. No one has played Overheat, not officially. I think there's been some folks in the community who know all of the cards by checking out the Japanese wiki, but certainly the official English assets of Overheat have never been released in any significant capacity. We really haven't shown much of its components at all. So this will be brand new information. And we're going to be releasing Overheat on Tabletop Simulator in July. That will be happening because we need to be able to give people, a couple weeks to get used to Overheat so that they can feel fairly prepared for the tournament. So July and August, and probably September, and then, if all goes accordingly, October with Midnight Saga's Kickstart, it's going to be a busy 4 months, because if we transition to Embryo Machine, I don't have much more on Gun and Gun at this point. It's, it's in mass production. So there you have it. That's the only update I have there. We're going to be running a fan contest for Embryo Machine. We are going to reveal that fan contest. Let me look at my last Embryo Machine Kickstarter date. All this shit starts running together in your head after a while. Our last Embryo Machine was on June 15th. So we are going to be revealing the Embryo Machine fan contest in the next 2 weeks. That fan contest will run for probably 2 to 3 weeks. So again, we're looking August-ish. So the hardest part here is I need to make sure we don't overwhelm people with too many LionWing things, because July/August is going to be Requiem. Then we got a Gun and Gun tournament. We got a fan contest. So I need to make sure that I space everything out. So something will happen in August, either the Gun and Gun tournament or the Embryo Machine fan contest. And then whatever doesn't happen in that month will happen in September. And then October, hopefully, all goes accordingly. Then we'll launch the Midnight Saga Kickstarter, or the next Kickstarter after Requiem. Hopefully it's Midnight Saga. Hopefully everything's been ironed out by then with what we're trying to add to it. That's the timeline right now. Embryo Machine, we are still we're still waiting on that map. I don't know. I don't have any explanation for what's taking so long there. It's kind of like the final deposit invoice. I don't know what's going on with that map and why we haven't gotten that illustration yet. We have been assured it's coming by both Kawakami-san and Shigaki-san. So it's two people, telling us the same thing. So it's not like I doubt that that's happening. It's just, this has taken months to get this thing. So, I'm trying to be mindful. You can't rush art, right? We're going to be doing some minis test prints in July. So that'll be cool. I'm excited to show pictures of those. I'm trying to think if I have anything else from Embryo Machine. There are some things that are going to be included, some things that have made it into the assets of Embryo Machine that no one knows. So this is becoming a thing that I'm liking to do now. If you followed Gun and Gun, you know that at some point I said, what you all have seen of Gun and Gun is not necessarily what you are going to get of Gun and Gun. All the big stuff, what you've seen, quality-wise, all of that is there. But there are some surprises that you are going to absolutely notice when you get your copies of Gun and Gun and those backer rewards. Things that we haven't mentioned, things that might have been mentioned that maybe you forgot about. You're gonna get that game. You're gonna be like, oh, I didn't know that was coming. The same thing is going to happen with Embryo Machine. And, you could say well, I could just tell you what those things are. But if you haven't caught on by now, I really like the actual act of getting your physical games from us, from LionWing, to be really special. Yes, it's already special because you're finally getting the physical product that you paid money for and that you've been hearing about and yada, 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 right? That's all special. But I like to go just 1 inch, extra to give you a little something else, something that you didn't know was coming, something you didn't see coming, some added stuff that's, that complements the experience, some stuff in the assets that may have been talked about at one point or may not have been talked about at one point where you're like, oh, that's cool. That's, I didn't know that was happening. I didn't know they were going to do that. So we did that with Gun and Gun. I really liked the feeling I got from doing that. And so, I told the Embryo Machine team, I want to do that same thing with Embryo Machine. So we're basically done now, other than the map. We're basically done with all of our assets. We are going to be putting, not the final assets, because some things I don't want you all to see until you get the actual product, like I just said, but we are going to be putting all the assets on Tabletop Simulator because we do want people picking those apart. We're going to be doing that soon. But it'll be cool that when you get Embryo Machine, you'll say oh, I didn't know they were going to do that. So that's exciting. This is not a project update, but is a good segue because I just talked about us putting Embryo Machine's assets on to Tabletop Simulator. I mentioned on Monday, a couple days ago during our LionWing Plays stream, that every project LionWing is trying to improve. If you're a company and you're not trying to constantly improve your process, then it's kind of well, what are you doing? You're probably not that great a company. You always want to make the next project you work on in this industry better than the last in terms of quality, in terms of translation, editing, proofing, component quality, that kind of thing, right? 2020, yes, we had done Sonoma Coliseum R before 2020, before Testament, before Wild Hunt Festival, Gun and Gun, Emery, etc. But, we shipped Sonoma to backers in April/May of 2019. And then, yeah, I think that's right. And then our next project didn't happen until early to mid 2020. It was kind of like starting over again because development on Sonoma Coliseum, although like we delivered goods in April or May of 2019, like development on that game wrapped long before we shipped. I mean, development on that game was done in like the fall of 2018. So like a lot of time went by between like when we ended Sonoma and when we started development on Testament. I don't know if you all heard that, but that was thunder. That was really loud. Oh my gosh, that was wild. It sounded like a brick in my house exploding. So time went by. And while we certainly didn't have to like relearn our process, there were elements where I was like, all right, we got to like relearn our process a little bit. And so with every game that we've worked on, our process has been refined. It's been relearned in some ways so that it can be better. And we've been constantly improving what that process looks like, what it looks like when it comes to translation, when it comes to editing, when it comes to graphics insert, all of that stuff. But also with QA. So, Testament, we're issuing this errata pack because there were too many cooks in the kitchen. Mistakes were made. That's sometimes is what happens when you've got that many people, that many companies, separate ones working on the same project. And it really brought into focus, like, all right, let's make sure our QA is buttoned up. You always want to ship your best product in this industry. Anytime you're working with a print-based medium, you always want to aim for perfection, knowing that you're probably never going to get to perfection. But you want to aim for it so you can get as close as possible. You don't want to aim for like less than perfection and then achieve even less than that. You want to aim for perfection and maybe achieve less than perfection. And most of the time that's good enough. But it was, a reminder with Testament, like, all right, we need to make sure that we've got our shit in order for all of our games. And, Wild Hunt Festival was an easy game for the most part to like translate and edit and to proof and to QA and all that stuff. Cause there's not a lot, there's not a lot to Wild Hunt Festival. There's just not. It's a small rule book. It's not a lot of assets. It's a lot of symbols. It's pretty straightforward in that regard. The longest bits are like the parts that we added through Kickstarter, like the quest log and the character sheet, booklet. But outside of that, it's a very straightforward game. And so it was easy to get that thing. It's definitely thunder. It was easy to get that game prepared to the point where we wanted it to be prepared and where we felt comfortable with it being when we shipped it. Gun and Gun, though, much more complicated game. Competitive games in general, complicated. You've got to make sure your wording's right. You got to make sure all your elements are right, because when you're dealing with a competitive game, and I mean, it's true for a cooperative game too, but it just seems more apparent in a competitive game that if something's off, you can really break the entire experience. And if you break a competitive experience, then like, why are people going to show up and play your game? They're not. That's that's how that works. And so it was really helpful for Gun and Gun that we put so much of the assets out there for people to see. We put them up on Tabletop Simulator. We put them up on the campaign page. A lot of people saw them, and a lot of people said like, hey, look at this wording, or what about this wording, or hey, this is kind of vague. And it was really helpful. And from that experience, it hit me like, you know what? Like, we are a small company. That can't be stressed enough. And that means we only have so many sets of eyes looking at our games. So having, let's say, 8 people looking at your game is never going to be as good as having dozens look at your game, or 100 people look at your game, depending on how many backers engage with your product when you put it up on Tabletop Simulator, for instance. You just get in this line of work, you can never have enough eyes on your product. You just can't. And at some point, you certainly want to say like, all right, thanks for all the feedback. You know, we got enough, right? But that's not why we want to put stuff up on Tabletop Simulator. It wasn't why we wanted to put stuff up on Gun and Gun. We didn't care like if people gave feedback. We wanted people to like catch mistakes that we didn't. You work on a game for so long, you just stop seeing things after a while. You see the same text for 8 or 9 months and you see it every day and you're editing it and tweaking it, every week. You stop seeing the imperfections in the text. You just do. Whereas fresh eyes, they see it all. They haven't gotten accustomed to the editor's bad habits. They haven't gotten accustomed to a typo. They haven't gotten accustomed to the lack or the addition of a comma or some kind of punctuation that changes the meaning of a sentence. They don't have any of that. And so it's invaluable data that you can get, that you can glean from people who have not worked on the game. And so the reason why we want to put up Embryo Machine's assets, we're not going to go to mass production on Embryo Machine for a little bit now. So we want to put up all those assets so that people can look and say like, oh, this is a little vague, or like, I don't know if that's super clear, because that's spot check edits are really quick and easy to do. And we've already got all the bases and we feel like the game's in a pretty good place, text wise. So it's like, let's put it up there for the world to see. People will like pick out some things here and there. We'll take that into consideration. If we think that's a good idea, yeah, we'll just jump into the assets, change that wording or whatever, what have you, and boom, done. So we want to be able to utilize that approach going forward. Big time, actually. We really want to utilize that. So we're changing up our process a little bit to incorporate that. I know some other companies do something similar, and in fact, thinking of Testament and then Japanime, I know that they have kind of like a public testing team where you can join. You can join that public testing forum to not only play test the game to see if they balance, see if the game's balanced and whatnot, because Japanime does a lot of their own design stuff or whatever. But it's also a chance just for them to be able to spot things like that. And so, we're not doing that necessarily, but this is sort of like that, where we're looking for ways to get more eyes on the product. So that was a little bit of a tangent there, but, one that y'all may have found interesting. Okay, a couple more updates. Midnight Saga, I mentioned this before. It's basically done. We're trying to, make sure this edition is going to be what we think it's going to be. We need some time to flesh it out a little bit. And so it was definitely the right call to move that campaign. I'm excited for people to play Midnight Saga. It is probably the game that we've invested the most in terms of like financial investments. Never before have we spent as much money prepping a project as we have for Midnight Saga, and we're not even to the part where I've got to pay for marketing. So we're all in on that game. Which is why I wanted to make sure when we launched that Kickstarter campaign, we were launching it in the absolute best shape that we could launch it in. Which, it's never an easy task. It's never an easy decision to make to delay a game, especially one that you've already announced that people are excited about. And we announced it and people were excited about Midnight Saga. So to say like, actually, we're going to delay it, it never feels good. But I've invested so much money in this game, and we as a team have collectively invested so much time in this game of preparing it, play testing it, yada yada, that it's like, all right, no, we're delaying it is the right decision, because we're gonna make damn sure that when this thing launches on Kickstarter, it's a big success. So the right call. We're excited for this fall. We're excited for people to check out Midnight Saga. I mentioned that a lot of our Kickstarter like video previews are already done. So like, it's so weird to have this game that is, for all intents and purposes, finished, just sitting there, and we're not going to do anything with it now for 3-4 months or whatever it's going to be. So we've never really had that. We certainly have always operated where we're working on a project, then we've got other teams working on other projects to some degree, but we've never had it where like a game is done and the game that's done isn't like our immediate focus. So that's a new experience for LionWing. All right, so then that leaves us with Project Requiem. So at noon today, I put up the code name for this project in the Discord. I gave this project its own Discord channel, and that's when I revealed the code name. I didn't announce it or anything when it happened. I just threw it up. I had told people on Monday that at noon I was going to do this, but you only knew that if you watched the stream. So I just threw it up, and people started talking. So the code name, as obviously I've mentioned, is Project Requiem. I will not be giving any hints this time as to whether someone is hot or cold with their guessing of what Project Requiem is. Last time I offered too much commentary on if someone was close to getting it or not close to getting it. And it led to someone getting it. Not that I don't want people to guess right, but I think it's more fun when you don't know if you've guessed right, and then reveal time comes, and that's when you find out, like, oh, I was right, or oh, wow, I was totally off base, or whatever. So, no commentary for me this time around. I will engage in that channel, in the Project Requiem channel, but it won't be about the name or anything like that. So, I've seen some speculation in the channel. You know, some speculation as to why the word Requiem was chosen as the code name for this project. So you'll have some time to get your guesses in and to think about it. And we're really excited about Requiem. It was an opportunity for us to grow as a company. It was an opportunity for us to grow as a localization company. I think people are going to be pleased. I think it's going to complement our catalog. I mentioned last week that for me, you know, a lot of how I choose games for LionWing to publish and to localize is strictly based on my own personal feelings, like whether I like the game or not. That's always kind of been how I've chosen these games. Like, I see a game, I'm like, I like that game. I want that game. I want to play that in English. Okay, I'm going to publish that. And I don't think a lot about like if other people are going to like it. Certainly you want and you hope that other people are going to like the stuff that you like and that you publish. But for better or for worse, I always just kind of prioritize my own interests over like the business's interests. So I know that we probably miss out on a ton of games that would probably make a ton of money, but I'm not personally interested in them, and so therefore I'm not going to pursue them for localization and publishing. And I really have to, just my personality, if I'm not 100% into something, then I just don't do it. Because I'll half-ass it. If I'm like 99% into something, I will half-ass that project. I mean, it sounds like cliche or something, but like I have to be 100% invested. And so it's really got, like, a project really has to get me for me to be invested. And so I talked last week that even with my tendency to prioritize my own interest over a game than what I think the market will be interested in, I do always hope, like, okay, I hope people like this game. And that in this line of work, you've kind of got to balance the two. But Requiem was a game that, like, I personally felt very connected to. In a way that I haven't with other games. And that was important, you know, like when that feeling comes up, and you all know this too, because you all know the games that you love. You all know the games that resonate with you. You all know the games that have made a lasting impression on you. You all know the games that have changed your life in many ways. You know, I've got some games that I've played over the course of my life that absolutely, it sounds ridiculous to even say it, but like, it's true, that have absolutely changed the trajectory of my life. I talk about playing, you know, Dragon Force for the Sega Saturn, how that was the game that got me into localization. I don't often talk about it, but it's also true. You know, Final Fantasy VII, OG Final Fantasy VII, was a game that sort of changed my life in many ways. So we all have those games where, like, you see it or you play it and you just like immediately like, holy shit, this game has given me a feeling I don't usually get, or that I've never gotten from another game before. And so Requiem was like that for me. And so it was like, you know, I got to do something with that. I can't ignore that. You cannot ignore that, because that means something. And for me, it definitely meant something, because I know I'm going to do my best work when I'm like when a game evokes that kind of response from me, and especially when it evokes that strong of a response, it's like, I can't deny that. We got to do something with that. So really excited about what Requiem holds. Really excited to finally reveal it. Let's see here. Fry Guy Fern in the chat says, pet cameo? I'm guessing you see my dog down there. Yes, that is Stella. She's seeking comfort from me because of the storms outside. The thunder is pretty gnarly right now, so I think we all know how pets do with loud booms. Which means she's going to have a field day this weekend with the 4th of July, because I live in a part of town that like loves fireworks. It could be the 4th of July. It could be the 18th of March. And they're lighting off fireworks around here. So consider this, I have to tell her, like, consider this a preamble to like the big dance that's going to happen this weekend with 4th of July weekend upon us. Okay, so that is all the projects, and that takes us, I think, to the end, which means we're right where I wanted to be, 1 hour and 16 minutes. Hey, I appreciate everyone joining tonight, whether you're joining live, you're catching us on replay, or what have you. I've been seeing some new faces in the Twitch chat lately, which is awesome. Thanks so much for giving us a chance, for giving LionWing a chance, for checking out this show. This is our flagship show, the one that's been running now for however many months. And it means a lot that you take time out of your schedules, whether you're a returning viewer or a new viewer, that you're taking time out of your schedules to hang out with me and listen to me just kind of ramble. You all are awesome. And I probably don't say it enough, maybe because it sounds so trite or something, but like, you all are the reason, why we do this and why it's fun. And you all are the reason we can do this, because, if you don't have an audience, you can't keep making product, and you can't keep finding new games and localizing new games. So, you guys are just awesome, for all the support, even if it's not like the monetary support of buying one of our games, just hanging out in Discord, joining us on LionWing Plays, or tonight, with LionWing Talks. So much appreciated. Frank Tank. Yeah, Frank, I think this was your first time, right? So hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you got something out of my just talking for 1 hour and 20 minutes. And yeah, loved seeing you in the chat. It's super awesome. Hopefully you come back. I think that's it, folks. So we'll be back next week. Obviously, I never miss a LionWing Talks. I was like deathly sick one week. One of the early shows of LionWing Talks. I was like deathly sick, and I was like, no. I'd gotten out of the hospital. I was like, no, I'm doing LionWing Talks. I don't care. So we'll definitely be back next Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, here on Twitch. We'll probably be back on Monday for LionWing Plays. LionWing Plays is its schedule's a little bit more fluid. We're not certain, that we're always going to record every week. Though we did talk, Sin, Beans, and I this past week about more regularity in Plays' schedule. So hopefully you can check us out Monday as well. The show is shorter, and it's just us playing LionWing games, as I mentioned. And hopefully, I've got some more news for you about Wild Hunt. Hopefully this week. And then it'll be off to Project Requiem. So, Frank Tank, you got Gun and Gun. Hey, that's awesome, Frank. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Appreciate you checking out Gun and Gun. That's a good one to back. If you're only gonna back one, Gun and Gun's a damn fine product. So I'm excited that it's in mass production. I'm excited about the quality of it. It took us a little bit to get exactly what I wanted. That is ultimately what slowed down the process of getting this to mass production. Is we needed to do 2 rounds of proofs, because the first round didn't come back the way I wanted it to. So I appreciate the patience, and I also appreciate you checking out Gun and Gun. And that'll do it. So, I'm Bradley. It's been fun. I'll see y'all next week. Take care.